Hello, everyone, and welcome to After Hours with Dr. J. I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer, and today I am joined by Dr. Sarah Ionescu. She's a board certified family medicine physician, wife, mama four, and soon to be mama five. She is also an exercise enthusiast, and she is here to inspire you to get moving today, okay? So welcome, welcome, welcome to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, Dr. J.
Thank you. Well, anytime I can speak with someone who has a lot of the same philosophies about movement, activity, exercise, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
being that you're passionate about wellness and exercise, let's start by talking about how you began your passion for movement. What inspired?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think really it all started with myself. I was somebody that was a competitive athlete growing up. And, when you're in college and single and you're an athlete, there's a lot of time to dedicate towards wellness and exercise and, improving your athletic ability. And then when I went to med school and got married and started having multiple children, I realized what I was trying to do for exercise just didn't fit into my life anymore. And so for a long time, really months to years, I just was not moving on a regular basis, not really doing what I knew that I wanted to be doing. And then that created a whole host of mindset things, you're not a good mom, you're not a good role model, all of these negative things. And ultimately, I realized one day when I was in a room with a patient and I was telling this patient, like, can you do 1 minute a day of exercise? Because this is somebody that wasn't moving on a regular basis and was struggling when multiple doctors had said, the guideline is 30 minutes 5 times a week. And this patient was saying, like, that's not doable for me. I do zero, like literally zero. And when I asked, can you do 1 minute? It was like, yeah, like it's sort of like, how do you say no? And so, we got this patient on a plan and working slow, little tiny baby steps to build up. And in that moment, and I had told patients this hundreds of times, but for some reason, I was a new mom. I had my first daughter. I was kind of just back to work. And I realized I need to change the way that I'm thinking about things because I used to think of it as exercise was hours, you're super sweaty, super vigorous. If I can't dedicate at least 45 minutes, it's not worth it. I'm doing nothing. And so then I was literally doing nothing every day. And so this kind of got me going where it was like you have to start where you are and you have to start somewhere. And so I've figured out over the years, the more kids I have had, I've actually become more consistent with exercise, been able to progress athletically and all of these things. And it really was because I had this mindset shift around defining exercise for myself. And so that's sort of the long way to say the way that I got inspired to help others with this is because I kind of felt like I was starting to figure it out for myself. And I really wanted to share that, especially for, moms of young kids and moms that are working, and really any parent that's super busy and just feels like they can't figure it out. I just felt like it was so important because it's so important for families as a whole to move, and the kids are only going to move if the parents are moving. And so that's kind of what got me going on this journey.
Oh, yes. So I am a big proponent of moving how you can when you can.
Hmm.
And I feel
Absolutely.
like, a lot of times we are not set up or it's not promoted that, you know, as your life changes, it becomes busy, you have a family, and all those things. You're not that five-star athlete, so to speak, that
Right.
you were in college. Things have changed. Um, And we have like I think you've said before, like a all or none type of
Hmm.
mentality. So yes, any type of movement is helpful. So that's good to know that your experience has driven your passion to make sure that we're moving in some form of fashion, and not
Exactly.
just becoming a blob on the couch.
Right. Exactly right.
And so now how are you promoting, um, exercise, movement, and activity to, the women and people, that you serve?
Yeah. So I think for me, it's really all about simplicity and having it be able to be done, anywhere, anytime. Equipment is wonderful if you have it or if you have the funds to be able to get it, but it is not necessary. Like there are many ways to move, there are many ways to strength train without actual weights. And so I think a lot of times the barriers for people are, the time is one of them, but it's also like this fear of a huge investment and in time, in money, in all of these things. And I think that, recognizing, like I said before, where you are, starting where you are, and just getting started. And then as you get more into it, you can always build layers on. Like if you get excited and you want to get equipment or you want to join a gym, that's awesome. But I think a lot of times the mentality is like, I have to wait until. But
Mm.
until never happens because you're waiting for perfection that, quite honestly, is not going to exist. And so you may be working out with kids trying to climb your legs or, whatever the situation is. I think that keeping it real and trying to keep it simple, and it doesn't have to be that you're doing all 10 minutes at once. If you have small kids, it may be you're doing a few minutes multiple times a day because that's what works for you and your phase of life. And that is absolutely okay. I think, I always recommend patients and people that I talk to about exercise, like compare yourself to yourself of yesterday, because that's really all that matters. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing for you to make progress. It's just looking at you yesterday and you today. And 1 minute is better than no minutes.
That is so true. I'm thinking of a cartoon episode where the dad uses the children and kinda tag teams with the mom and their, that's their way of getting exercise. The kid is
Yes,
gonna move anyway, so let's get
exactly.
moving all together, let all of us get moving. So, yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And with that type of advice that you're giving people, what are some, um, I guess, inspiring changes people have told you about?
Yeah. So I think, that I'm thinking of the patient that I was talking about before, where I had given the advice of 1 minute a day. And this has actually happened a few times where patients will come back and say, like, doc, I was up doing that minute and I thought, let me just do another one. Because it's one of those things where, like, if you're already ready to go and you're in it, a minute can actually go by pretty quick. And maybe there are days where that's it and that's what you can fit in. But there may be other days where you feel excited and inspired by yourself and then you add more. And I think, building confidence, people talk a lot about motivation, but motivation is something like, what if it's not there? Then what are you going to do? And so I think that building confidence, and I've seen this in myself, like with doing the stuff that I'm doing on social media, the more you take these baby steps, the more confident you feel about what you're doing. And so even if you're somebody that, maybe hasn't been active ever, or it's been a really long time, you start with what you can do now. And as you do that over and over again, you'll realize, oh, I can go for longer. I can do more time. I can change the intensity. Like all of these things start to build because you're starting to feel so confident about your ability to move.
Oh, yes. And I think that's key, like, paying attention to those, and letting that be your focus, all the small things. 1 minute but you actually end up doing 3, you end up actually doing 5, you're actually doing 10, that's a win, you know?
Exactly.
And
Yes.
building upon those things to get to your big goal. But if we're like focusing on the big goal and like you said earlier, getting that like that paralysis, like I don't have what I need to do what I need to do. But concentrating on those little things is better to get to the big
Exactly.
goal. That is
Exactly.
awesome.
And I think, it is, I found for me and also for patients, friends, family, like writing down those wins, like you said, no matter how small they may feel, you write it down because then on a day where you're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, you can go to that and look and see how far you've come. Like day one, here's what I did. And here's all the wins that I've accumulated over the last week or 2 weeks or month or quarter, whatever you're going back to. But I think sometimes without writing it down, and that can be, physically writing in a journal if you're a paper and pen kind of person, or, you do the notes app or the remind, whatever on your phone, but somewhere that it's documented so you can go back and remind yourself of how awesome you are and how far you've come, because that is part of that. You can't really learn from your experience if you don't take the time to reflect on it. And so I think that is a huge part of getting moving consistently, is really being able to, one, recognize the win, celebrating it, and then documenting it so you can go back to it later.
That is awesome. And that kind of piggybacks into what I was going to ask you next. Like, do you have any pointers or mantras that you could tell people that you use? You
Yeah.
write it in your journal.
Yeah, so I think celebrating wins is one. I think giving myself grace is another one, because that was huge for me in the time where I truly felt like a failure. I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, and that immediately went to a negative place. And now I've been able to fully flip that mindset where it's like, I'm going to do what I can today. And that's awesome. If I can show up and do something, that's awesome. Another thing, I don't know if I would call it like a mantra, but I like a quick tip. I always have a backup workout planned. So what I mean by that is I'll have my, like, this is what I really want to do. But you never know what's going to happen. You might get an important phone call. You have less time than you thought because a kid wakes up, or whatever it is. Like it's raining and you were going to do something outside and now you don't know what to do. So I always have a backup workout that's like super short, quick, that I know almost no matter what I can do, so that I can fall back to that without going into like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? Because that helps keep that consistency going, which I think is so important. And the giving yourself grace part is, if everything falls apart and you can't do it, like that's okay. Say it's okay and just get back going the next day. It doesn't have to throw you weeks, months, whatever. Like it's okay. You just give yourself grace and keep going.
That's so important to remember. That is so important. Now you have an event that's coming up that we all can participate in near and far. Can you tell us about
Yes. Yeah, sure. So this is going to be a free, it's my very first one, but it's going to be a free interactive workout. Again, like in anywhere, anytime, no equipment type of situation. So it will be through Zoom, and it's going to be on September 3rd at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I think I have gotten you the link. So if anybody listening or watching, wants to sign up and you're watching before that happens, you can definitely feel free to sign up, come check it out and see what you think.
that is awesome. So definitely September the 3rd at 8 p.m. Make sure that you visit the link and get ready.
Yeah.
It's gonna be awesome. And I will also include your how to reach you on social media and how we can follow you. But if you can like briefly tell us those handles of yours?
Yeah, yep. So it's really the same handle everywhere. So I am most active YouTube. I put out a video weekly, and then I actually have a short that comes out every day. And then Instagram and Facebook. So I'm at Dr. Dr. Sarah, Sara Ionescu, Ionescu. And it's the same everywhere.
Awesome. Well, it's definitely been a great thing having you here today and just
Yeah.
reiterating and reminding us to take those small steps. And we'll get there. Just start
Yes,
with the small steps.
exactly.
Um, but it's been a great time. And to all of our listeners, we hope that you like and share our podcast, After Hours with Dr. J. And we will talk with you soon. See you soon.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.